Hello, today's demonstration, I'm going to attempt to make a fresco using modeling paste. Fresco means fresh, and it means painting into wet plaster. The modeling paste, you can't exactly do that, but because it's not as absorbent as plaster, I'm not sure what's in it. So I'm going to take just an old painting. And my fresco will be a little bit different in that I'm going to use cheesecloth and some other cotton fabric, some canvas, and some decorative paper to embed in there. But my approach is going to be very flat like a fresco, and I'm going to make some lines, incise some lines in it so that I can have the paint go into those lines and be absorbed like a stain. So last week we embedded things that had much more dimension. This is going to be much flatter and just playing a lot more with the modeling paste material. Okay. And if you don't have cotton fabric, you could probably do the same thing on the surface with modeling paste, but the fabric is going to absorb some of that paste. And then when I want to make impressions, fabric makes it easier to press into and leave an impression, if that makes sense. Okay. And I'm doing at this point, it's a very thin coat. I'm just scraping across to get that cheesecloth embedded into the surface. Scraping pretty firmly. Okay, so I've got that all pretty well embedded with the modeling paste. Now, if I want, I can add a little bit more, and then using different palette knives, I'm going to use one that's has a flat surface. And the way I think of these really is it's almost like plastering a wall. This is a small scale trowel. And depending on how I rub that on the surface, I'm going to get different textures. So that's something to play with. But I'm trying for very low level texture. Okay, I'm going to embed some of this magazine page here, or a book page that I made a printed pattern on. And I can run my palette knife on top. If I go firm pressure, then I can still see all that patterning. I can go on top like that. So it's a little bit more disguised and embedded within the surface. Okay, now I'm going to take these bottle caps and push in firmly. And I really think this is easier to do with a fabric versus doing this directly onto the canvas. Okay, so I made all those circles. Then I'm going to use the edge of my flat palette knife, the tip, to incise some really thin lines. My son said, those look like dandelions. I said, well, that's kind of what I was going for. Okay. If you had a toothpick, you could probably draw into the surface. I can cut some smaller pieces of cotton fabric. To build up another very low layer. So I'm using the modeling paste as a glue, an embedding medium, and to create texture and line. And your fabric could have patterning on it too. That might be interesting. And I'm going to use this funny shape palette knife to make some very subtle textures. Okay, which is kind of, I think, kind of hard to see on the screen. So then this would need to dry. I think if you stick it out in the sun today, it would probably be dry in like 10, 15 minutes. You could also hit it with a blow dryer. You could also play with directly dropping paint onto this surface, the wet surface, which is what you would do with a fresco. But my experience is it didn't bleed as much as I would have liked. Okay, so here's one that's dry and kind of hard to see. So I'm going to put some liquid. I'm going to use a high flow, not a high flow, acrylic ink. I'm going to go sap green up at the top. I'm going to add some water to it because I really want it to soak into that surface. Now you're going to be able to see all the texture that's below. There is cotton fabric there. It's sucking up all the paint. And it's really going into these very fine lines that I incised with my flat palette knife. Okay, and if I take a very damp rag wrung out, I can pull out some of these colors if I want to play with that. So kind of erasing painting, which is really fun. And then again, if I don't like it, want it to go darker, I can just add more paint and bring that back. So really manipulating the surface. Okay, now I'm going to go a burnt, what is this? A burnt umber down here for the ground. Again, adding more water. Okay, so we had the modeling paste, then we have the layer where I kind of stain it. And then here's one that's dry. I used cheesecloth on this one, so it's going to be a little different. And now the stage I'm at is where I'm going to go to regular acrylic paint and change the color scheme a little bit and pull out some of those details. I think I'm going to go really kind of in the pastel range. I'm not going to mix any paint right now. I just want you to see the technique. I'm using a small flat brush and 45-degree angle, dry brush pretty much, just dragging over the surface. To enhance the texture and highlight the circle shapes. Now I'm scrubbing. This seems to work a little bit better. Since it's pretty textury, if I want to get more of the paint into that cheesecloth, I think this sort of scrubbing seems to work a little bit better. This is kind of fun because I have all the shapes precisely outlined, which is really helpful. And then it's very relaxing. I'm just kind of scrubbing this in. There's no way I could get as precise a line like that painting. I couldn't freehand draw that. Okay. All right, now let's see. I'm going to add another color. Going very pastel-y with all of these. I could leave some green if I want. Let's see. It's nice. I can keep layering. And it's kind of subtle, almost like working with pastels because of that textured cheesecloth. Okay, now down here.
Laura, do you have some burlap in there?
It's cheesecloth. It's a strip of canvas. like a canvas drop cloth I cut up and ripped is in here.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So this is like the basic idea. I feel I kind of like leaving these green. I could come in and make them darker if I wanted to. I can come back and, you know, restain things with the liquid acrylic if I want to. It's kind of subtle, like I don't know. That's kind of how I think of frescoes. It's very flat surface, but you're relying on the simplicity of the design, but then also the texture in the surface. So definitely think maybe there's a color here, a little bit more pop I could add, but that's the gist of it for making a mixed media fresco painting.